So picture this. My manager sends me a message that says, quote, "Let's touch base before we run this up the flagpole." And I genuinely sat there for 10 minutes trying to figure out where the flagpole was in our office.
You didn't.
I did. I almost asked the receptionist if we had one on the roof.
That is the most Jack thing I have ever heard. Okay, today we are talking about something every single one of you has felt confused about at least once. Native speakers and their idioms. The weird little phrases that make zero literal sense, but somehow everyone just understands them, except us.
So friends, welcome back to Rose and Jack Everyday English. We're so happy you're here. I hope yesterday's episode helped you feel a little more confident. Today is day 22 of our 30-day B1 to B2 challenge. And our topic is 12 idioms native speakers use every single day. If you have ever been in a real English conversation and felt completely lost because someone used a phrase that made no sense, this episode is for you. By the end, you will actually understand these expressions, and you will know exactly how to use them yourself when you speak English naturally.
Okay, so I want to start with something that actually happened to me during my very first week at a marketing agency in Toronto. I had just moved there. My English was already pretty solid. I could read reports, I could write emails. But the second real people started talking fast in a meeting, I felt like I had walked into a different language completely.
Oh no, what happened?
So it's my first Monday, everyone is introducing themselves, and my new manager looks at me and says, "Well, we're throwing you in the deep end, but I know you'll hit the ground running." And I just smiled and nodded because I had absolutely no idea what that meant.
A pool in a marketing office?
I told you, I panicked. Later that day, I quietly looked it up on my phone under the table. Hit the ground running basically means you start something new immediately and you do it well without needing time to slowly get used to it. So she was saying, "We're giving you a lot of responsibility right away, but I trust you'll be ready for it fast."
That's actually a really common one, especially in business English. People say it whenever someone starts a new job or a new project, and they're expected to perform well immediately. No slow warm-up period.
Exactly. And once I understood it, I started noticing it everywhere. My coworker used it about a new client project 2 days later. It felt like once you learn one of these phrases, your brain suddenly hears it in every conversation.
That happened to me too, but with a different one. Okay, my turn. So I was doing an internship at a small tech startup in London, and my very first assignment was joining a video call with a client from Manchester. I was so nervous I could barely speak.
I remember you telling me about this, actually.
Right, so the client starts the call and says, "Let's break the ice before we get into the numbers." And then he just starts talking about football for 5 minutes. I kept thinking, what ice? We're on a video call. There's no ice anywhere.
That is exactly the kind of moment that makes learners want to give up on speaking English.
Honestly, it almost did for me that day. But afterward, my supervisor explained that breaking the ice just means doing something small and friendly at the start of a conversation, usually casual chat so that everyone feels relaxed before the real topic begins. It has nothing to do with actual ice.
See, that's such a good one for our listeners because it comes up constantly in everyday English conversation, not just business. If you meet new people at a party, you might break the ice by asking a simple question or making a light joke.
Right, and once I understood that, I actually started using it myself. A few weeks later, I was leading my first small meeting, and I opened with a joke about the terrible coffee in our office, just to break the ice before we discussed the real agenda.
Did it work?
Everyone laughed, and honestly, the whole meeting felt easier after that. It's a small trick, but it really works, in English or any language, actually.
Okay, so here's the thing about that first week for me. It wasn't just one confusing phrase. It was like 5 a day. The next one that got me was during a Tuesday morning meeting. My manager said, "All right, team, let's get the ball rolling." And I looked around expecting someone to actually bring out a ball.
You were looking for sports equipment in a marketing meeting?
I know, but it makes sense once you think about it. Getting the ball rolling means starting something, usually a project or a process, especially after it has been delayed or hasn't begun.
That's a great way to explain it. I actually think that phrase comes from the idea that once you push a ball and it starts rolling down a hill, it continues by itself. So starting is the hardest part.
Exactly. And for me, that phrase became almost like a mantra that whole month because I kept telling myself, just get the ball rolling on this task. Don't worry about doing it perfectly, just start.
That's honestly good advice even outside of idioms. Starting is always the hardest part of anything, whether it's a work project or learning English.
True. Okay, your turn again. I feel like you have a whole collection of these from London.
I really do. So, probably my biggest embarrassing moment was during a Friday afternoon. Everyone was clearly exhausted, and my supervisor looks at the clock and says, "All right, everyone, let's call it a day." And I genuinely thought he meant we should officially name that particular day something, like a celebration day.
Jack.
I told you my brain does weird things under pressure. But no, calling it a day simply means deciding to stop working for the day, usually because you've done enough or you're tired. So he was just saying, let's stop here and go home.
That one is honestly used everywhere. At work, when you're cleaning the house, even when you're studying. If you've been reviewing English vocabulary for 2 hours and you're exhausted, you could say, okay, I think I'll call it a day.
Yes, and I use it constantly now. Actually, funny story, a month after that mistake, I used it correctly in a meeting, and my supervisor looked genuinely surprised, like he remembered my confusion from before.
That's such a satisfying feeling, though, when a phrase that once confused you completely suddenly becomes natural, like it was always part of your vocabulary.
It really is. It's one of the best feelings when you're improving your English. That quiet moment when you realize you understood something without translating it in your head first.
Speaking of quiet moments of confusion, can I tell you about the worst week of that whole month? I had finally submitted this big campaign proposal. I was so proud of it. And then my manager read it and said, okay, this isn't working. We need to go back to square one.
Oh, that's a rough one to hear as a beginner.
It was rough to hear as anyone, honestly, but especially confusing because I kept picturing an actual square, like number one on a map or a board game. Turns out going back to square one just means starting completely over from the very beginning, usually because the previous plan or attempt failed.
I think that phrase actually comes from board games. Like some old games had numbered squares, and if something went wrong, you had to return to square one and start again.
That makes so much sense, actually. And honestly, once I understood the phrase, it helped me handle the situation emotionally, too. Instead of thinking, I failed completely, I started thinking, okay, we're back to square one. That's normal. That happens in every job.
That's such a healthy way to look at it. In English-speaking countries, people use that phrase without any real embarrassment. It's just a normal part of how projects work. Nothing is finished perfectly the first time.
Exactly. And that shift in thinking actually helped my confidence a lot, not just with English, but with my job overall.
Okay, my turn for something a little different. Do you remember when I got really sick during my second week at the startup?
Oh, yes, you were miserable.
I was, and I sent a message to my supervisor saying, sorry, I'm sick today. And she replied, no worries, hope you feel better soon. Sounds like you're really under the weather. And I remember thinking, under the weather? We're all under the weather. We're all under the sky. What does that even mean?
That's such a fair reaction, honestly. It sounds so strange the first time you hear it.
Right? But it simply means feeling sick or unwell. Usually not seriously, just a cold or a headache or general tiredness. People use it constantly in everyday English conversation, especially in casual messages between coworkers or friends.
I actually love that one because it's so gentle sounding. It doesn't sound harsh like saying someone is sick. It sounds almost caring, like under the weather, softens it a little.
That's a great point, and now I use it all the time. If I skip a video call because I have a headache, I just message and say, I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, and everyone immediately understands without needing more explanation.
It's funny how these phrases carry emotion, not just meaning. Okay, here's one that I actually love because it made me laugh once I understood it. My manager once looked at a report I made and said, oh, don't worry about that part. It's a piece of cake.
I remember hating that one at first.
Right, because obviously there was no cake anywhere near this report. I was so confused. But piece of cake simply means something is very easy to do. No difficulty at all. Once she explained it, I actually started smiling every time I heard it because it's such a fun, visual way to describe something simple.
I think that's one of the first idioms most learners actually hear, probably because teachers love using it since it's easy to picture. Cake, easy, sweet, simple.
Exactly. And now, whenever something is genuinely easy for me at work, I catch myself saying it in my head automatically, this is a piece of cake, without even translating it anymore. That's honestly a great sign that you're building real English fluency.
Totally agree. Okay, next one is something that came up almost every single day for me at the startup, and it took me the longest to actually understand naturally. My manager would end almost every meeting saying, "Let's touch base again next week."
Oh, I remember that phrase confusing me too, actually.
Right? Because touch base sounds like some kind of sports thing, like literally touching a base, which honestly, it comes from baseball originally. But in everyday English, touch base simply means to make brief contact with someone, usually to check on progress or share a quick update.
It's used so often in professional English. Honestly, if you want to sound more natural in workplace conversations, touch base is one of the easiest phrases to start using immediately.
Definitely. Once I understood it, I started using it in my own emails, saying things like, "Let's touch base tomorrow morning before the client call." And my supervisor actually commented that my emails were starting to sound more natural and professional.
That's such a good example of how learning idioms doesn't just help you understand others, it actually improves how confident and natural you sound when you speak English yourself.
Exactly. And honestly, that's part of why we made this whole B1 to B2 English challenge. Because true fluency isn't just vocabulary, it's understanding these subtle layers of communication too.
That's such a good point. Okay, want to hear one that honestly made me feel a little silly? My manager once told me a task was simple by saying, "Come on, it's not rocket science."
Oh, that phrase is everywhere.
It really is. And thankfully, this one I actually guessed correctly the first time because rocket science obviously sounds complicated. So saying something isn't rocket science means it isn't that difficult or complicated. Most people should be able to understand or do it easily.
I love that one because it works perfectly alongside piece of cake. They're almost like siblings, both meaning something is easy, just with slightly different tones.
True. Piece of cake feels a little more casual and sweet, while not rocket science feels a bit more like reassurance, like, don't worry, you can handle this, it's not that complicated.
That's such a helpful comparison, actually, for our listeners, noticing small differences in tone between similar idioms. Okay, second to last one from me. There was a huge project deadline approaching, and I was terrified to tell my manager I needed 2 extra days. My coworker said, "Just bite the bullet and ask her." That one sounds almost aggressive if you don't know it.
It genuinely does. I pictured someone literally biting a bullet, which sounds painful and strange, but it actually means forcing yourself to do something difficult or unpleasant, usually because it's necessary, even though you don't want to do it.
I think that phrase actually comes from history. Soldiers apparently used to bite on a bullet during surgery before modern medicine to help handle pain without medicine. So the phrase became about facing something painful bravely.
That's such an interesting background for it. And once I understood the meaning, I actually bite the bullet and asked my manager for those extra 2 days.
What happened?
She said yes immediately and even seemed a little confused about why I was so nervous, which honestly taught me that a lot of my fear was more about my own English confidence than the actual situation.
That's such a relatable lesson for English learners. So much of our nervousness comes from language anxiety, not the actual difficulty of the task.
Exactly. Okay, last one. And I actually think this is my favorite because it describes something so important for teamwork. After weeks of miscommunication with my coworker about a project, we finally had a long, honest conversation. And afterward, she said, "Okay, now we're finally on the same page."
That phrase is honestly one of my favorites too.
Being on the same page simply means having the same understanding or opinion as someone else about a situation. Basically, everyone agreeing on the plan or the facts.
I actually used that exact phrase during my last week at the startup. After my supervisor and I had a slightly confusing conversation about a deadline, I said, "Just to make sure we're on the same page, you want this finished by Thursday, not Friday, right?"
Did that help?
It really did. And honestly, my supervisor seemed impressed that I clarified it so directly and naturally, instead of just guessing and hoping I understood correctly.
That's honestly the real goal of this whole episode. These 12 idioms aren't just random expressions to memorize. They're tools that help you sound more natural, avoid painful misunderstandings, and actually feel confident enough to speak up in real English conversations.
Completely agree. And looking back at both of our stories, from your first week in Toronto to my confusing calls in London, it's honestly kind of funny how similar our struggles were, even though we were in completely different countries and completely different jobs.
That's actually really comforting for listeners to hear, too, that these confusing moments happen to almost everyone learning English, no matter where you are or what job you have. It's a completely normal part of improving your English.
Exactly. And the good news is, once you actually understand these phrases, like our listeners are doing right now, you start noticing them everywhere, in movies, in conversations, in emails, and slowly they become a natural part of how you think and speak.
Which is honestly the whole point of everyday English conversation practice. Not memorizing lists, but understanding real language, the way native speakers actually use it every single day.
Okay, so now let's actually show everyone how this works in real life. Let's imagine we just met at a friend's birthday party, and the music and the noise around us is making it hard to hear each other clearly. Kind of like a real fast conversation situation.
Perfect. I love this. Okay, let's start. Hey, Jack, I didn't know you were coming tonight. How do you know Sarah?
Oh, we used to work together a few years back. Small world, right? Sorry, could you say that again? It's a bit loud in here.
Oh, sure. No problem at all. I said, how do you know Sarah? Did you two work together?
Yeah, exactly. We worked together at a marketing company downtown. It was actually my first real job after university. What about you? How do you two know each other?
We actually met at university. We were roommates for almost 2 years, and honestly, some of my best memories are from that time. Wait, sorry, someone's talking really fast over there. Could you repeat the last part?
No worries at all. I was just saying that's really nice. Having a roommate you stayed close with for years is pretty rare these days.
It really is rare. And see, this is exactly the kind of moment we're talking about today. The music is loud, people around us are talking fast, and instead of panicking or pretending to understand, we just calmly say, "Sorry, can you repeat that?" Or, "Could you say that a bit slower, please?"
Exactly. And notice how natural that sounded. Nobody got embarrassed, nobody judged the other person. We just kept the conversation going smoothly. Let's try one more example. A slightly different situation this time.
Sure thing. That'll be 450. Do you want that for here or to go?
Sorry, could you say that one more time? I didn't catch the last part.
Of course, I asked if you wanted that for here, meaning to drink inside, or to go, meaning you're taking it with you.
Oh, got it. Thank you. To go, please. See, that felt so smooth. And this is exactly the skill we've been talking about today. Staying calm, asking for clarification politely, and not letting a fast sentence stop the whole conversation.
Let's do one final example. Something a little more like a real, fast, natural conversation between friends catching up, without stopping every few seconds.
Sounds good. Hey, I heard you finally moved into your new apartment. How's that going so far?
Yeah, it's been a bit hectic, honestly, unpacking boxes every evening after work, but the location is amazing, super close to the train station, so my daily commute is way shorter now.
That's great. Honestly, the commute makes such a big difference. I remember when I lived further out, I used to waste almost 2 hours every day just getting to work and back. Exactly, and that's actually why I decided to move closer, even though the apartment itself is a bit smaller than my old place. I figured less space, but more free time is a fair trade.
I completely agree with that, and honestly, it sounds like you made a smart decision. Let's pause here for a second and notice something. Did you catch how naturally that conversation flowed without either of us stopping to ask for clarification?
Right, and that's because we were speaking at a comfortable pace, using words we already knew, and connecting our ideas smoothly. Exactly the kind of real, natural English conversation we want you to eventually feel confident having, even at a faster, more native speed.
So here's a small challenge for you while you're listening. Try saying our first example out loud. the birthday party conversation, or even the coffee shop one, and practice asking someone to slow down or repeat something using the exact phrases we used. Sorry, could you repeat that? Or could you say that a little slower, please? The more you practice these small phrases, the more naturally they'll come out when you actually need them.
That's such a good idea because these phrases are honestly some of the most useful tools you can have in real English conversations, no matter your level. They're simple, they're polite, and they instantly help you stay in the conversation instead of feeling lost or left behind.
Okay, now let's slow down for a moment and review some really useful expressions that came up naturally in our conversation today.
Let's start with smiling and nodding. This means pretending you understand something by smiling and moving your head up and down, even though you actually don't understand. For example, during the meeting, I had no idea what they were discussing, so I just kept smiling and nodding.
That's such a common experience, and a mistake learners often make is saying smile and nod without the ing form. But in this expression, we usually keep both words in the ing form together, smiling and nodding.
Good point. Next, let's talk about keep up with. This means to stay at the same speed or level as someone or something. For example, the conversation was moving so fast that I couldn't keep up with it.
A common mistake here is saying keep up the conversation without with, but the correct form always needs with after it. Keep up with something.
Let's move to catch a word. This means to hear and understand a specific word clearly. For example, she was speaking so quietly that I could only catch a few words from her sentence.
True, and a natural alternative learners can use is pick up a word, which means almost the same thing. For example, I managed to pick up a few words even though the speaker was speaking fast.
Next is go over someone's head. This means something is too difficult or fast to understand. For example, the joke completely went over my head, so I just laughed along with everyone else.
That's a great one, and a common mistake is translating this word for word from another language. But remember, in English, it specifically means something was too complex or fast to understand, not literally going above your head.
Let's talk about blend together. This means when sounds or words connect and become difficult to separate. For example, in fast speech, the words often blend together so it sounds like one long sound instead of separate words.
Exactly. And a more natural alternative is saying words run together. For example, when native speakers talk quickly, their words often run together.
Let's review get used to. This means becoming familiar or comfortable with something over time. For example, at first, the accent was confusing, but eventually I got used to it.
A common mistake here is saying I get used without to, but you always need to plus a noun or the ing form, like get used to something or get used to doing something.
Next, turning point. This means an important moment when something changes significantly. For example, that morning in the kitchen was a real turning point for my confidence in English.
True. And finally, let's talk about stay in the conversation. This means continuing to participate actively instead of giving up or going silent. For example, even when I didn't understand everything, I tried to stay in the conversation by asking questions.
All of these expressions came directly from our story today. And if you noticed, we didn't teach them first. We simply told our real experiences. And now you already understand them naturally from context.
Let's look at some common mistakes B1 learners make when talking about understanding fast English conversations.
First mistake. Incorrect. I cannot keep up the conversation. Correct. I cannot keep up with the conversation. We always need with after keep up when talking about following speed or pace.
Second mistake. Incorrect. This is going over my mind. Correct, this is going over my head. Remember, the expression always uses head, never mind, even though they seem similar.
Third mistake. Incorrect. I am used to understand fast English now. Correct. I am used to understanding fast English now. After used to in this meaning, we always use the ing form of the verb, not the base form.
Fourth mistake. Incorrect. Can you repeat again, please? Correct. Can you say that again, please? Or simply, can you repeat that, please? Using repeat and again together is unnecessary because repeat already means to say something again.
Fifth mistake. Incorrect. The words are mixing together. Correct, the words are blending together or the words are running together. Mixing isn't wrong exactly, but native speakers naturally use blending or running together in this specific context.
These small corrections might look simple, but making them naturally in real conversations is exactly what moves you from B1 to B2, sounding not just correct, but genuinely natural.
All right, everyone, here's today's comment challenge, and we really want to hear your honest answer below.
Tell us about a real moment when fast English completely confused you, maybe at an airport, in a meeting, watching a show, or talking with friends. What happened, and how did you handle that moment?
Try writing your answer in English using at least one expression we reviewed today, like keep up with, go over my head, or get used to. Don't worry about writing it perfectly. This is real practice, and we'll be reading your comments.
Take your time, be as detailed as you can, and remember, every single comment you write in English is one more step from B1 towards B2. We genuinely love reading your stories, so please don't be shy. Share it below.
Thank you, friends, for listening to our today's episode. I hope you learned something valuable from it, and I hope you feel a little more confident about understanding fast English conversations after today.
You've come such a long way already, and staying consistent every single day, even just 25 minutes like this, is exactly what builds real, lasting fluency over time. We're genuinely proud of everyone showing up daily for this challenge.
Don't miss tomorrow's episode, day 22 of our B1 to B2 challenge. Subscribe now so you don't fall behind, and make sure notifications are turned on so you never miss a new episode.
See you tomorrow, friends. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember, every fast conversation you understand today is proof of just how far your English has already come.